We're going to start with how to format your memo in Microsoft Word on an Apple or Mac computer. First thing you want to do is make sure that all of your margins are set to 1 inch on all sides. You can use the Format menu and go to Document, or you can use the Layout tab in your ruler bar and go straight to Margins. And right now, my margins are 1 inch on the top and bottom, but the default for Word these days is 1.25 left and right. I need to take this down to 1 on both the left and the right. So with my margins set, I can proceed to my font selection and size. I go back to the Home tab, and I see that Word has defaulted me to Cambria 12 point. I do want 12 point, but for the purposes, again, of this assignment, I want you to use Times New Roman. You can scroll down to find it, or you can simply delete and start typing in the font name that you want. As another preliminary formatting step, I want to go ahead and check my line spacing. I can use the Format menu for this, or I can stay here on the Home tab and use the icon that looks like several lines with up and down arrows. It tells me I'm set to single spacing, but I need to check line spacing options as well. You want to make sure that Word is not configured to automatically add space after a line, and sometimes it can help to click on Don't Add Space Between Paragraphs of the Same Style. I click OK. Now I'm finally ready for some content. The first thing I want to do is write the word memo in all caps. I hit enter twice, and now I'm ready to type and format my 4 lines that give the date, the recipient, my name as the sender, and then the specific subject line for the memo. So I'm just going to type in some information for us to work with. Here everything is nicely typed, nicely single-spaced. My subject line is specific, but we also need to set the alignment here to match what we see in the textbook. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight them before I go looking at the Format menu and scroll down to find tabs. The reason why your cursor moves a half an inch whenever you hit the tab key is because this is where your default tab stops are placed. What we're going to do is add a new tab stop at 0.7 inches. So I type 0.7, and for alignment, I want it to be right. I don't want any leader. I don't need any dots or lines. Once I've typed in my new tab, I click OK. I'm sure it's hard to see on your computer screen, but a very tiny right tab arrow is now located at 0.7 inches in my top ruler. Now I start tabbing so all of my colons are lined up at this 0.7 inches mark. I place my cursor in front of date and I hit tab once. See what's happened? The colon is perfectly set at 0.7 inches. Let's do the same thing for the next line. I hit tab once, nothing happens. I hit tab twice. Well, that can't be right. What if I place my cursor in front of the title of my recipient and hit tab? There it is. Well, we're just going to work on line 3. You can try it from the front. Same thing, it goes too far. Place the cursor in front of your own name, hit tab. Perfect alignment. Finally, my subject. Well, that moved my actual subject title over, but the word subject itself is still stuck over here. My colons aren't lined up. All right, let me put my cursor in front of subject. There we go. You'll have to ask a computer science or computer technology major to explain why I had to do this. I'm interested in what you can actually do to make your formatting work. Mess around with it is my bottom line. If you have to place your cursor in front, if you have to place your cursor in the middle, whatever it takes to get this perfectly lined up colons and then a perfect line of information. Once I have that done, I put the cursor at the end of my actual subject line and hit enter once. What I'm going to do to clear this special formatting so it doesn't screw up my memo body is I'm going to go up to the ruler, I'm going to click on the right tab arrow, and I'm going to drag it out. This removes it from the rest of my document. I can start typing all of my other information. The next part of the video shows how to do all of this on a PC. So if you're working on a Mac, you can open up Microsoft Word and start playing around with formatting yourself. On a PC, the first thing you want to do in formatting your memo is make sure that your margins are set to 1 inch on the top, bottom, left, and right. Sometimes your default setting puts the left and right margins at 1.25. To check, go to the Page Layout tab, then Margins, and from the pull-down menu you want Normal, which is 1111. With that double checked and set, you're done with your first formatting step. Next, you make sure that your line spacing is correct for a memo. I'm still under the Page Layout tab, and there's a paragraph menu at the top that tells you your spacing before and after paragraphs. I've gone ahead and expanded the paragraph menu into a pop-up by using the small gray arrow at the bottom right of the paragraph section. Often Word's default is a 10-point space after every major paragraph break and line spacing at 1.15. You want to change the after spacing to 0 points and the line spacing to single. Your memo should not have extra space between lines, and you are not going to double space this like you did your research papers in Comp 1. Once I've done this, I can start typing my heading information for my memo. At the very top left-hand corner, I type the word memo in all caps. I hit enter 2 times, and then I type my 4-line heading, my date, the recipient of my memo, who it's from, me, and then a detailed subject line. I'm going to go ahead and paste in an example so I can then go through how to set up your tabs to align this part of your memo appropriately. So here's the date, to you, from me. Of course, you would use full and formal names. Subject, class will not meet tomorrow. Notice that this is specific. It doesn't say class or class tomorrow or even class meeting tomorrow. The subject is really all I need to know. The body of the memo would probably tell me why this is the case, when it will be made up, and so on and so forth. If you look closely at our textbook and the formatting I've asked you to follow, this is not how these 4 lines look. All of the colons after date, to, from, and subject need to be aligned. You could literally draw a line down the page and all the colons would be right there. So how do you format this when you're working in Microsoft Word on a PC? Select the 4 lines of your memo heading so the formatting applies just to this section. At this point, I want to go back into the paragraph menu because at the bottom left corner of my pop-up is an option for tabs. Click this to launch a new pop-up. On the tab menu shown here, default tab stops at our every ½ inch. This is why when you hit the tab key, your cursor automatically moves a ½ inch according to your top ruler. What I want you to do is add a tab stop at 0.7 inches. Simply type 0.7 or 0.7. Before you hit OK, you also need to align your new tab stop. Click on the radio button for right alignment. Once you've completed both of these steps, click OK. Now I have a very small arrow in my top ruler that applies just to these 4 lines. You're going to need to play with your tabbing to see whether you need to place the cursor at the very beginning of the line or at the beginning of the word right after your colon. For the first line, when I hit tab, nothing happens. So if I move my cursor in front of January, now it works. You're going to have to play around to get these tabs to work. You might have to delete your return space, hit enter again, and tab until you get everything aligned. You may even have to tab at the front of the line. Your end goal is to have date to from subject right aligned like this. All of my punctuation is perfectly lined up with this 0.7 inch tab stop I have inserted. The specific information is aligned at the 1 inch mark. Once you're satisfied with your alignment, hit enter once, go to your right tab in your ruler and drag it out into the document body. This will keep your right tab from interfering with the formatting for the rest of your memo. If you're having trouble or you're still confused, please stop by my office hours and we can walk through this in person